Deion Sanders, never one to let the spotlight leave for too long, has had an interesting few days here. There was an article that came out in The Athletic from a former player who effectively said, Deion didn't even try to get to know me, told me to enter the transfer portal. He ended up doing so, goes to another school here. Well, both Deion and Shedeur Sanders, his son, have weighed in recent days on that story. If we can bring up some of the socials here. First off here, from The Athletic, Deion Sanders recommended Xavier Smith hit the transfer portal like many others. He didn't. Then during spring practice, Smith felt like more like an extra in the background of the reality show. Frustration set in before he eventually left for Austin Peay. Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback on that team, and I believe Xavier Smith was a wide receiver, said, I don't even remember him, to be honest. Bro had to be very mid at best. Deion,
so disrespectful.
Then jumping in here. Seems slightly unnecessary. Deion, folks don't hate you because they really don't know you. They admire you in a negative way. They realize they can't be you, think like you, talk like you, or walk in your shoes. That bothers them. Always smile when you see them because that makes them admire you so much more in that negative way. I then like that pre-time KB weighed in against primetime Deion and said, tell your son stop act like he the coldest out here, then put up a 4-8 season. That's not a bad dunk right there.
Wait,
by KB.
The KB guy is just a random person?
He's just a random person. But Deion decides, I need to respond to this and says about Shedeur, he will be a top 5 pick. Where your son going? LOLOL, I got time today. LOLOL. This is...
Wow.
I mean, it's entertaining. Okay,
I got time today.
Deion is nothing if not entertaining.
He's the best.
But this storyline, both parts of this storyline are going to be fascinating to watch unfold through the course of this season. Because on one hand, you've got a Colorado team. And listen, I was sitting there like everybody else. Was it TCU in the opening game last year and they beat them?
Yeah.
And you're sitting there just going, Deion's going to do it, man. Like
the first 3 weeks of the college football season,
right.
Thank God there was nothing really else going on. But College
game day is there.
Colorado just kind of swept the nation up in its wake because they were just beating teams and they're 3-0 and they're ranked. And it's like, all right, this is fun.
They then lose 8 of their last 9.
Yep.
I know attendance was down a little bit for the spring game.
The weather issue, I think, was a factor. But
down a little bit.
Yeah.
But you at least are going, okay, they've got a lot of work to do.
Sure.
And with Deion, it's always been about the transfer portal and bringing the guys in.
Yep.
They operate differently, I think, than a lot of other schools here. So how Colorado does year 2 with Deion is going to be really, really interesting to watch. They're never going to be like a top recruiting class type of team. It's going to be you transfer there, you come in, you play for Deion. It's a pro-style environment. Let's ramp it up. With Shedeur Sanders, and I haven't gone deep through the 2025 draft yet. I will start that probably around January of next year.
I'm literally looking at a 2025 mock draft right now.
Where do they have Shedeur Sanders in the mock draft, if anywhere, in round 1?
Let's see. So I'm looking at PFF, and they have Shedeur 9th to the Raiders.
Okay, so ninth to the Raiders.
Top 10 pick.
One of the teams that Deion, because he's already said publicly, he will only let his sons go to certain teams. And these were things that have been contemplated by Caleb Williams in his camp, Jaden Daniels in his camp. Could we force our way or whatever? In both those cases, they never really pulled the levers to actually try to go to a different place. If Shedeur Sanders plays well enough, if he becomes this year's Caleb Williams, he'll have more leverage. If he doesn't play as well, if Colorado doesn't play as well, it's going to become more complicated. But how this entire thing, you are, and again, Deion's never been afraid to do this, but you are putting all the pressure on yourself and your son. Shedeur's putting the pressure on himself as well to be that high draft pick. We're going to call our shots. We're going to be a number 1 type pick here. This is not regarded as a really strong quarterback class in 2025, which is part of the reason when you talk to people within the league, why 12 quarterbacks go in or 6 quarterbacks in the first 12 picks. Part of it's because everyone's going, well, we don't want to draft one next year. Right. We don't want to be in that spot because we don't know who that next guy is going to be. Is it Shedeur Sanders? Is he the first one off the board? And as much as we talked about Caleb Williams and everything that comes with him, the people who dug into Caleb Williams found he was really driven. He'd been built for this moment for his entire life in terms of, from 10 years old. His dad had set things up for, I'm going to have Caleb be the number one pick. And to their credit, what they did worked. So when they're doing things differently through this pre-draft process, and he's not doing the medical at the combine, he's not working out at the combine, he's only taking one visit, he's only giving one team his medical, they could do that because he's in that rarefied type of air, and it doesn't surprise anybody. With Shedeur Sanders, it's going to be similar in terms of everybody is thinking this might be a little bit different process. We don't know exactly how this is going to go. But a Colorado team that goes out and wins 8 games, and Shedeur plays really well versus a Colorado team that's 4-8, and it's Shedeur standing on his head just trying to make things happen, is going to impact some things in terms of exactly how this entire pre-draft process ultimately plays out.
I think Colorado is going to be one of the biggest stories coming up in college football this year. I mean, we knew
out of
they
the
had,
gate, but if they start 0-2, I haven't looked at their schedule, but if they lose a couple of games early, are people going to care? Does Shedeur keep playing?
But if Shedeur's playing really well, I mean, last year, they had offensive line issues, and he's kind of running for his life. He took a lot of bad sacks. If that gets cleaned up this year, and he's putting up the kind of numbers we saw in the first part of last season, it's going to be really interesting. I mean, he's the favorite. He's the betting favorite to be the number 1 overall pick. I'm sure he's really high up in the Heisman odds. A lot of pressure on this guy.
No, and he's fun to watch. Travis Hunter is fun to watch. Yeah. It's just when you create that pro-style environment, it is interesting to see. I mean, Deion is very much, he knows exactly what he's looking for. He knows who his guys are. It's Deion coaching by the Deion rules. By the rules when Deion was playing. Yep. He wasn't listening to anybody. I mean, what was the legendary quote to Andrea Kramer? If Detroit had taken me, I would ask for so much money, they'd have put me on layaway. You don't have those options now. Everything's slotted. Yeah. The only thing you can try to do is pull those levers to say, I'm not going to take a visit to the team I don't want to go to. You better not take me. I'm not showing up. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, there were rumblings. Are they going to try to do? Is Jaden going to get himself to the Raiders? Is Caleb going to get himself someplace else? They didn't actually do it. Next year, this is going to be the one to watch of exactly how this plays out.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.